So to the, with regard to the events, we've had two instances in the last week and a half where the Emergency Operations Center has been activated. We have been involved at the EOC, as it's known. Very nice facility, by the way. We really like it, and it's we did a very good job. The first event was Winter Storm Diego, which is referred to the 10-inch snow that we had. And we did experience a number of outages, primarily Saturday morning and Sunday night were the big outages that we had. But they were largely tree related. We had snow accumulation on trees that came down into the power lines. Fortunately, we didn't have the wind with this event, so we didn't have the drifting. We worked long hours during this storm. Blair pulled the night shift at the EOC, I pulled the day shift, so we kind of alternated back and forth. But we had 823 customers that experienced outages during this storm, a total of 154,000 minutes of outage time of all of those customers. Big outage Saturday morning would involve significant damage in kind of the northwest part of our town, involving trees and power lines. We had to call Aspen out to help us with tree trimming on that. That was the largest single outage that we had. And then Sunday night we had a transformer failure due to loading and also some defects with the transformer. And we had to replace two transformers in an apartment complex on the Magnetic Drive. So that involved 247 customers being out for several hours while we were replacing those transformers. The rest of them were trees, squirrels, and transformer failures. We had some overloaded transformers that, sometimes you'll have transformers out there that do fine year round, but when you get into one that's really cold, we had some low teen temperatures during the storm as well. You find any weak points in your system, these transformers that are overloaded, can normally ride through an extreme cold event like that. You find weak points on your system. We had a few of those. So that was Winter Storm Diego.
Didn't you tell me that you lost 27 poles?
That was in the wind event. That's the next one. So we had the wind event on the 13th, which was last Thursday. And again, the Emergency Operations Center was activated. Blair pulled this one by itself. He was out there at 6 a.m. for this event. Of course, we had saw the wind records afterwards, and we had 44 mile an hour sustained winds with gusts of 58 miles an hour. That's tropical storm force winds. If we had been Corpus Christi, we'd be evacuating the city. A lot of it's just a high wind.
You just needed a little more moisture. That had something really fun happen.
But we did have a number of poles that went down. We had, I think, 23 poles that either failed or were broken.
It's a good way to call the old ones.
Yeah. 429 customers experienced outages during this event. 32,000 customer minutes of outage. So it was not as significant as the other one, but it was still a major event for us. Again, the outages we had a lot of jumpers burned off. We'll have to do some checking to see what, I guess it's just flopping around in the wind, but wires down, trees again were a problem in this storm, and then of course the poles down. So it was a big event. It was a long day for the guys. I want to brag on the guys because I think in both of these events they did a really good job of responding quickly to get to the customers and restore the lines. Both the wind event, we had our line crews, both overhead and underground, working, as well as the service guys. Service guys run everywhere and fix it if they can, or call managers if they can. But we worked both of these events, long hours in very difficult conditions. Think about getting a bucket truck up in 50 mile an hour winds. I mean, that thing's swaying everywhere. It's not for the faint heart. Yeah. But we did it without, as far as I know at least, we did it without any injuries and without any equipment damage. So I thought I was really proud of that. Any questions on that?
We would echo that. Thank you guys. We've had a chance to think on behalf of the council. We're all very thankful for not only your response, David, and your team, but also the entire city. Thanks for the cooperative spirit of working on this, and practicing. I know in that first early November when we sat down and did that tabletop exercise, it seemed a little not silly, but, you know, we didn't, little did we know that within a month we'd be activating it for a 10-inch snowstorm. I mean, I think that, you know, planning really helps in that regard. So I applaud all you guys for that. EUB, and board members, if you'd like to tour the Emergency Operations Center, we're awful proud of it. And if you'll give us a notice, we'd love to set you a tour up for that. It's something that you would be, it's not the prettiest building, but it wasn't built to be pretty. It's built to withstand an F5, but it's a remarkable facility, and we didn't even pull it up to its full capability. But if we really had a, you know, really significant event, we can do some really remarkable things there. Anyway,
Where is it?
we can't tell you, it shoots you right through the river. Blindfold you when we take you there. It's
Black Hood.
It's at the fire administration, so it's out on just north of the loop on Martin Luther King out there. We have fire training and fire administration out there. So it's built in behind there. It's a rather nondescript brick building.
Yeah, I'll echo that. Thank you for those comments, Mayor. But it's very, you can't believe how helpful it is to be sitting in a room with fire, police, streets, engineering, and have everybody around Marine Corps J Parsons kind of managing the orchestra as it were.
Is it underground or just a reinforced?
From a communication standpoint, it helps to leverage all of the different channels, because I think we found that there were folks picking up fires, PDs and hours independently, some all, but I think we kind of cover everybody when we are retweeting, forwarding, and sharing all of our different messages.
I forgot to mention that. He pulls some long hours out there as well, so he did a good job coordinating with the other PIOs.
But what we had in the snow was what we didn't have in 2015.
Yes.
People in their homes didn't have a clue what was going on. And the PIO did an awesome job. People knew what was going on. Did any of us receive a call from, you know, from a constituent like we did in 15? I don't think so. Because they knew what was going on. They knew, you know, about wrecks, and they knew whether we were having problems. And so kudos to the PIO people too. So, really good.
You know, Mr. McCall, I think one of the reasons Mr. Rose feels so comfortable out there is because he just really 8 days before that had wrestled a pig out there. It's just right there on the outside, you know, outside the EOC.
You got honorable mention in that contest.
He won the spirit of it, without a doubt.
And he was on the podium. He finished third of 3. Most money, that's right.
The board will recall, we're planning on moving our dispatch center out to the EOC, and that will be our primary center for, we've got SCADA operations and our dispatchers that manage the outage management system. And they're actually moving out there this week. We had a bit of a delay getting phone numbers assigned out there, but AT&T finally came through with some phone numbers, so they're in the process of moving out there this week. Will be functional out there. We had folks stationed out there during both of these events, but it was kind of overflow staff moving out there, kind of have folks there that we could go down the hall. So it was very convenient to go down the hall, check for SCADA, and see what things were going on. Communicate with you guys that way. Okay, now on to the slideshow here. We've got a lot of projects going on around town. Chalker, most of the work in the substation is complete, but the transmission and distribution connections have been worked on in the last few weeks. And so here's some of the slides showing the transmission lines, the big poles being set. They had some huge cranes out there hauling, loading those poles and setting them in there. And this is a contractor that worked late into the night, one night to get some poles set. We've got Chalker switched out right now so that they can do this work, and they're working up and down Utica right now, but this is the work that was actually happening around the substation there. At Slayton Substation, that's a new substation to replace the one that we have there that's now called Slayton. We decided it would be more cost effective and efficient to just build a new substation there. There just wasn't enough land there at the existing site, so we poured transformer pads, conduit systems, a lot of site work has occurred out there, so that was moving along real well. Red Raider substation, this is the one that is in the agreement with Tech. Mostly dirt work has been going on out there. They'll start pouring concrete. I think this week they're supposed to be working on the road, improving the road that goes from Quaker over to the substation site, getting that suitable for heavy equipment. McDonald's substation, this is an existing substation in Milwaukee, close to 4th Street. This is where we had the big outage that just burned for 5 minutes. Most of that old equipment has already been removed, and we're in the process of pouring transformer pads, breaker pads, putting the duct banks in. So this will be a really nice modern station when we get done. By the way, Red Raider, Slayton, and McDonald are all targeted to be finished in May of this year. So they're very fast-track projects, moving along very, very rapidly on all of these. May of next year, 2019. Southeast, this was phase one of some upgrade that we're doing in Southeast, some bus work and relay work primarily that's happened out there. Not as much visible work has happened, but it's very important, nonetheless. And then Chalkerd Oliver, I mentioned the transmission work going on along Utica. These poles come in 2 sections, so they set the bottom part first and then come back later and set the top part. So you can see that's half of a pole. The part that goes up in the transmission has not been installed in that slide. A lot of equipment, a lot of manpower needed to do this kind of work.
David, remind me on that. Do you take there's already a set of poles running down Utica. They stay though, right? They don't.
The wood poles, the wood poles that go up in the transmission will be removed.
Okay.
There will probably be some wood poles that remain that just go up to the distribution level and stay, because the new design is longer spans, so some of the distribution will be too long to make that span, so we'll have an intermediate pole set just in the distribution. A lot of poles, wood poles will be removed. And again, this is to convert that line from 69 kV to 115 kV as part of the voltage conversion project. That's it for my report.
I'd like to thank you, Doug, personally, and I guess on behalf of the board, for those events, the work that our guys have done, and also I want to thank Mr. Atkins for part of this. As Councilman Joy pointed out, the performance in the snow was top notch.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
I think we all appreciated that very much. As far as the other items in the regular report, are there any questions, comments that anybody has on the charts and items there? I might, Mr. McCollum, draw your attention on page 18 to the average there, our average.
Mr. Chairman, City Council adjourned.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank y'all for this thing.
Great work. Merry Christmas.
Right. Yes, okay, yeah. So, and this is just for my edification, I guess. I noticed our number for the month of October was 111.27 per 1,000 kilowatts, and we're just a couple of cents over the state average. But I noticed that Amarillo dropped quite precipitously between September and October. And I guess, is that some kind of winter rate deal, or?
They're still, for the most part, on the summer winter rate like we used to be, but we had a big fluctuation. So you'll see they went up in June pretty substantially, and then they've gone down pretty substantially in October. So that's why we're kind of remaining steady, and they're jumping around like we used to.
I just noticed that in the materials, so what I would ask. Other comments I had was our meter reader error rate continues to be at a very low level, which is good. And call center activity is good as far as the items that the number of calls in the call center waiting time continue to be good. So those are the things that I would focus on. Anybody else have anything that would draw attention to?
No. Can I make a recommendation? On that same chart that you referenced, could we do a 12-month rolling average on that?
I'm sorry, which chart?
On the rate chart.
Yeah, residential bill amounts. Or would it be too small?
You know, but we can. Good.
Or can we?
Now, the problem is the rolling average doesn't tell the whole picture because you've got for example, our summer rate is lower than next sales rate, but there's higher volume in the summertime than there is in the winter. So then it needs to be a weighted average. And that might be a little tricky. Okay. To get a weighted average.
I guess you could look at that, just the graph and sort of, I don't know, maybe you should do some kind of regression in there to get to an average. Wouldn't have to be an arithmetic mean, it could be some kind of.
Do a simple average, but that's what I'm saying. It'd be somewhat misleading because it doesn't, unless it was weighted average, it doesn't tell the whole story.
I was just trying to get to a way that you can compare apples to apples on that, especially with that huge drop.
Yeah, if you're talking about
If you
average month.
right.
Let us think about that a little bit and see if that makes sense.
Anybody else, comments, questions on item 7 on the agenda? Okay. If not, then let's go to item 8, presentation and discussion of financial and capital statements, financing options, audits, and financial policies of Logan Power and Light related to debt issuance issues, reserve account funding, cost allocation, revenue and expense projections, purchase power cost recovery factor, customer metering, billing, and service issues. Mr. Sager.
Yes, sir. As you know, we don't present financials while we're in the audit period, and so we don't have a whole lot. I don't even have slides for you today. I just wanted to point out a couple things to you. Per the tariff, I'm required to report how we're doing on the PPRF, so that's on page 29 of your document. That one goes through October. Our most current numbers for that deferred revenue have increased $15.5 million through November. The one item that we do have to discuss starts on page 30, and that's the CIP report. And as you're aware, the new budget year started in October, and so this is the CIP report as of October. So that brought on a whole lot of new projects and new dollars. And so we've got 71 projects listed there. We've got 10 or 12 that will be falling off, but as of October, they still had a few encumbrances left on them, so we needed to let those clear before those roll off the report. Your total appropriation, excluding those that will fall off, is just shy of $295 million, and so the capital program has increased significantly since last fiscal year. So some of your big dollars spent in October, we spent about $1.7 million in CapEx. A lot of the usual offenders, we've got the distribution transformers, we've got overhead lines, underground distribution, some of the ones you expect. We've spent about $400,000 on distribution capacitor banks. The McDonald upgrade that Mr. McCullough referred to earlier was just shy of $200,000. Spent a little over $100,000 on the GIS software solution, and then just miscellaneous dollars here and there on some of the other projects. So the audit, just kind of keep you updated, is going well. Auditors are still here, working through all those tests. And Ronnie, you're welcome to chime in as you see fit. No hiccups. Everything's going as planned. So that's all I have for everyone.
Mr. Sills, let me, I'll ask you, and I'm sure you'll remind me. The finance committee, you would normally meet with that sometime around early February.
Yes, sir. Usually the first week in February. We actually wanted to see who was appointed today, and in terms of elections and all that, and then we would be sending out this week once we know who's on everything, and we'll be working with everybody's calendar to find a date that works.
Chad, on the CIP program, it appears that we are kind of back in line as far as our 65-35 funding goes. Is that?
We're back in line?
Yeah, I know at one point we were, I guess we were a little more debt heavy than we were cash funding.
I think we're pretty pretty heavy on the debt side. I'm showing, in terms of appropriations on this, if you include the projects that are going to fall off, we've got about 275 in bonds compared to about 35 million in cash for a total of 307. So we're pretty heavy on the debt, but that aligns with the budget that we presented. We know we'll be pretty debt heavy for the next several years, and then once we get through the funding of the transmission lines that Mr. McCullough talked about, we'll be almost cash funding everything after we're done with that to kind of get things back in balance.
So the bond portion is page 31 and the cash portion is page 32. The two added together.
Okay, gotcha.
Does that make sense?
Gotcha.
I'm always looking for what's the number we really spend, the total that we spend. Other questions, Mr. Sayles? So we talked about the audit and when that'll be done. So remind me again when we'll start getting financials again for the February meeting.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And just in terms of progress of the audit, I would say that we're further along than we've probably been when it was just me managing it. Ranu has been an enormous help, and it's nice to work on a parallel track rather than kind of all doing it myself and managing some other staff. She's working on the notes and has almost finished those, while I've been able to work on the MD&A rather than taking those one after the other. We're working on them at the same time, so hopefully we can get things wrapped up a little quicker this year than we have in years past. So just really thankful that she's here and the expertise that she brings, and she's been a huge help. So
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, he's very talented.
She was a spectacular hire for us.
Yeah.
We're very fortunate to get her.
absolutely, that's all I have.
Okay. Thank you, Chad. If there's not any other questions, thank you. All right. Then we would take up item 10, which is consider resolution recommending to the city council one appointment to the West Texas Municipal Power Agency in accordance with section 2.03.415E of the Code of Ordinances, City of Little, Texas. As y'all probably saw from the resolution, this is the should be parentheses, but this would basically be reappointing Mayor Poe to that position. Right now, we have two spots on that board, which Mr. Bowman and Mr. Poe. And I believe those alternate every year.
Yes, sir.
It's a 2-year appointment, they alternate one after the other. So this year is the year that the mayor's appointment will come up, and I guess it's traditional that the mayor be the other appointee.
So we need to object it.
Well, this is a recommendation. It's a resolution recommending, so the city council gets the ultimate say on this, right? So they can have his spot.
We don't want to talk about your advice because there's no press here. Press was here.
Okay, so motion made to recommend to the city council, or to approve the resolution recommending to the city council the appointment of Mayor Poe to the Rotunda Board. So that's a motion by Gwen, by Ms. Stafford, second by Mr. McCullough. All right. Any further discussion on that item? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
That's such a big job, we almost meet twice a year.
Almost. Well, then we will take up item 9, and that is to consider nominating elect officers of the Electric Utility Board. Would exercise a point of privilege here, and so it's been my great honor and privilege for me to be able to serve as the chairman of this board for the last 5 years. I appreciate every one of you, all of those that I've served with on this board. It's been a great honor, one of the great experiences of my life to have been able to serve as that, and also to work with the great folks we have, Mr. McCullough, Mr. Archie, even Mr. Well, he knows I have to gig him a little bit. So, anyway, it's been a great joy and privilege, and I just want to say that before, because I will not stand for the chairmanship. And so I think I told everybody that last year, and I think it's best for the organization that we have some transition there going forward, since Mr. Bell and Mr. Bolton and Mr. Conrad and I will all be absent ourselves here with the term. So anyway, so with all of that said, I'm going to open the floor to nominations for the officers of the Electric Utility Board.
Chairman?
Mr. Bell.
Follow on with what Greg said. Obviously, before I was going, you four over there will be here, and Dan will be here, and a bunch of us will be gone. So what I want to do nominations require seconds, or do we just nominate?
No, nominations stand on their own.
Okay, well, what I want to do is nominate, and I'll explain, I want to nominate Dan Odom for the chair and Don Bolton to continue as vice president, and Greg move for the secretary position. My thinking is, we obviously got this year of transition. Us four are gone in 10 months, unless there's some delay in getting us replaced. Also, there is an agenda review a week or so, whenever we did it before, and with that nomination, if that's the will of the board and that's approved, I would encourage, without forming a quorum, for you guys to, anyone that's interested in being an officer next year, 10 months from now, when we're all gone, maybe attend those agenda, because there's a whole lot of discussion go on. It really ratchets up your understanding of what's going on, in the board meetings. So that was the thought, is Dan's the chair, then we have two people with a lot of experience to sit in on those agendas. And then if there's three of them go,
I tell you what, I couldn't have done what you did. I couldn't have kept my tongue, and I should have kept my tongue like you did. And I admire you for your wisdom and your ability to maintain cool under fire.
Thank you. Thank you. Like I said, I appreciate all y'all. I think, appreciate you saying that, but it is a group effort, it is a team effort. It's been a privilege to serve in this.
Oh, there's another thing too, I was going to comment, if my nominations are approved, then Dan will have to, decide on committees and that sort of thing, so anybody's interested in committees, Dan will be looking for volunteers, for where we have finance and human resources and technical.
No, there's another one, project help.
Project Helping Hands, which James shared, that right? Liaison.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's another consideration too. It needs to fill back.
And I appreciate, Mr. Conrad had said that he, while we're talking, Mr. Conrad had said that he preferred not to stand again for the secretary position, and he's filled that role very well as well. Like I said, we've all been in that trench.
I've gotten a little bit of arthritis.
You have to hang around after board meetings.
Sounds-
There is one more set.
Yeah. Now you're not off the Yes, Henry?
Maybe this is premature because you're not leaving for a while longer, but I think we all appreciate thanks to all four of you. I'm very relieved that we found some good people to come on this board to replace you because you're going to be very nice.
I think it's going to be important for all of you that are still here to really put your thinking caps on about what you'll recommend to the council for replacement board members. Four rookies.
Would be appropriate to move,
Already have.
so we second the meeting.
No, that doesn't require a second. What I was going to say is, are there any other nominations? Okay, if there's not any other nominations, then that would be a slate, so to speak. And we would just act on that as one vote. So if there's not any other discussion, then all those in favor of the nominations made by Mr. Bell, please indicate by saying aye. Any opposed? It's got it. So that is the last item on our agenda, as I am no longer the chairman.
We go to the consent agenda. We pulled out 12.
Right.
So, point of order, Mr. Kemper, does Mr. Odom have to close the meeting?
Yes, he does.
So far, he's doing pretty good.
So, is that going to your record of his?